Awesome. So apologies for that. Sometimes tech issues can be a little bit disorienting. So let's get things started. So today we'll be talking about the top market events moving the markets. Of course, the top event is expected this afternoon. That will be the Canadian retail sales. And of course, we'll be expecting a speech from the current US President Donald Trump later in the day. And that's the two major events that are expected to be moving markets today. So, good morning, Willie Bet, and thank you for joining. So, let's proceed. Or, as always, remember that this session is not a recommendation to trade, does not constitute investment advice. So, you should always do your own due diligence and practice proper risk management. So today, from the economic calendar, there is quite a number of things going on. So we'll be jumping right away. First, on the calendar today, we had visitor arrivals data from New Zealand, which came in at 1%, meaning that there was 1% higher number of arrivals in December. Then we had the trade balance from Japan, which came in at negative 0.03 trillion. This was way better than expected. And of course, there was a record increase in the number of exports or the trade balance between Japan and the US, meaning that Japan is exporting even more products to the American economy. So today is the fourth day of the World Economic Forum annual meetings, and there will be an interesting event happening during the event where the current US President Trump will be speaking online and he will be addressing the World Economic Forum event. And this will be happening at 7 p.m. So when you see this, President Trump speaks, he's due to speak at the World Economic Forum annual meetings via satellite. So, of course, this will be his first major address to global leaders. And out of investors will be watching this closely to see the developments and the announcements he makes, as well as the policies he'll be trying to push to the rest of the world. So outside of that, there is a CBI industrial order expectations for the UK. This will be coming up at 2 p.m. Then at 4:30 p.m., that is close to the New York Open, we'll be getting Canadian retail sales data. Of course, in the previous reading, we had an increase of 0.6% in retail sales. And in this reading, we're expecting a 0.2% increase. And this is reflective of the month of December. So as for core retail sales, there was a 0.1% increase, and we'll be expecting a similar increase. So for those who are very new to trading retail sales data, you should know that retail sales is a measure of consumer receipts across different retail chains across an economy. This includes supermarkets, apparel stores, restaurants, and so on. So it basically measures consumer purchasing power, and it's usually positively correlated with the currency. This means that if there is an increase in retail sales, this tends to be positive for the currency. And if there's a decrease in retail sales, then it tends to be negative for the currency. So in this case, we expect a slowdown in the retail sales compared to the previous reading. So if the slowdown is worse than expected, then it should be negative for the Canadian dollar. And of course, if it's positive or better than expected, then that should be, if it's better than expected, it's positive for the Canadian dollar. If it's worse than expected, then it should be negative for the Canadian dollar. So this is happening this afternoon. And later on, we'll be getting crude oil data from the US. And this includes crude oil inventories at 7 p.m. and natural gas storage inventories at 6:30 p.m. So of course, for natural gas, we expect a decrease in storage, and that should be positive for prices. And for crude oil inventories, we expect a slight improvement. But in the previous reading, there was a 2 million barrel drop in inventories. But in this case, we expect a much smaller drop of negative 0.1, which should be taken as positive, as negative for oil. So if crude oil inventories are increasing, oil prices tend to go down. And if crude oil inventories reducing, then in that case it's positive oil. So a decrease in crude oil inventories, let's say we get something that is worse than 0.1 m, then that should be positive for oil. An increase in inventories will have the opposite effect, in this case, drop in prices. So going forward, Friday, we will be having major news from the S&P global coverage, where in this case, we'll be looking at manufacturing and services PMI for various economies, ranging from Australia to Japan. Then we will be getting the same data for the Eurozone, for the UK, as well as for the US in the afternoon. Of course, the main event of the week is an interest rate decision by the Bank of Japan, which will be happening tomorrow in the morning, roughly around 7 a.m. And in this case, we expect a 25 basis points rate hike, and this should be very positive for the Japanese yen. So outside the economic calendar, there's more stuff happening in the markets. There's one, Putin growing concerned by Russia's economy as Trump mulls more sanctions. So the extent of Putin's concerns about the economy described by sources and the influence of that on views within the Kremlin about the war are documented here for the first time. So basically, according to a report released by Trump yesterday, he's basically saying or pushing Russia to go into a ceasefire with Ukraine and negotiate a peace deal. And he has threatened to implement sanctions if Russia doesn't go for the peace deal. So he said there's two ways they can end the war. One, by negotiating and getting things done really quickly, and he called that the easy way. And then two, it basically includes forcing Russia to get into the peace deal. And these might work through imposing tariffs and sanctions on Russia. So outside of that, if you look at the top market highlights this morning, Japan exports hit a record high. They rose by 2.8% year over year in December 2024, surpassing forecasts of 2.3% and marking the third straight month of growth. Their total value reached a new peak of 9.9 trillion yen, boosted by robust year-end shipments, notably to the Asian countries. Meanwhile, imports grew 1.8%, reversing a 3.8% decline in November, but falling short of the expected 2.6% increase. So, in other highlights, European markets are set for a lower open on Thursday, pausing a recent rally as investors awaited greater clarity on US President Donald Trump's speech. And of course, the threat on sanctions will be a key focus later this afternoon. So Dutch consumer confidence drops to 13-month low. Thailand export growth above forecasts. China advises mutual funds and insurance to buy more stocks. And this has led to a rally in Asian stocks. Oil falls for the fifth session. WTI crude oil futures fell to $75 per barrel on Thursday, retreating for the fifth consecutive session after an industry report revealed a renewed rise in US stockpiles. So, South Korea's Q4 GDP growth falls short of expectations, and those are the major highlights in the market this morning. And as you can see from the highlights on the commodities trading this morning, already crude oil is trading down 0.12%, Brent down 0.03%, natural gas almost 1% down, gasoline is doing well, up 0.44%, heating oil well up 0.68% this morning. So gold slightly lower, 0.02%. Silver, it's almost 50 basis points down. This is 0.45% down. Copper, soybeans, wheat, coal, and steel all going down. TTF gas up 0.35%. Lumber up down 1.81%. And iron ore slightly higher by 0.19%, basically indicating that it's largely more of a bearish market for the day. So looking on the crypto side, it seems like a red day where a majority of cryptocurrencies are experiencing bearish prices. Of course, the top cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin, is down 1.46%. Ether for Ethereum is down 0.76%. Binance Coin 0.91%, Cardano, Solana, Ripple, Polkadot. All of them are basically printing negative prices. So clearly, it's not a very good day for crypto traders today. So on the Forex market, you will notice that majority of the majors are losing to the dollar. So euro is down 0.1% to the dollar. The pound is down 0.09%. Australian dollar is down. New Zealand dollar is down. USD and retained unchanged at 0.0%. The Chinese yuan is also gaining against the dollar. Losing to the dollar. The Swiss franc retained unchanged. Canadian dollar, in this case, losing a bit to the dollar. Mexican peso slightly higher against the dollar. Indian rupee also losing to the dollar, and so on. So clearly, what we are seeing is a pretty strong dollar today. But for the majors, you can see euro, pound, Australian dollar, and New Zealand dollar. They have all made some gains against the dollar. So looking at other news in the markets, as I mentioned, Trump to remotely address business political leaders at Davos Forum. Topics are quite unclear as of today, but here's a summary of some of the things that have already happened since the inauguration. So US President Trump will speak remotely at the World Economic Forum on Thursday in Davos, Switzerland, delivering his first major speech to global business and political leaders. So Trump is due to give a speech and engage in a dialogue at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, according to the meeting schedule. It is not clear what he will discuss. Trump's nationalist instincts have been on full display since he took office on Monday. So the newly inaugurated president has moved quickly to crack down on immigration, expanding domestic energy production, and has threatened to impose steep tariffs on the European Union, China, Mexico, and Canada. So Trump has also withdrawn the United States from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Change Agreement. He says he will rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, though other countries may not adopt a new name. So he has also threatened to take back the Panama Canal from Panama. So he has pardoned more than 1,500 supporters who attacked the US Capitol on the 6th of January 2021 in an unsuccessful effort to overturn his 2020 elections laws, drawing outrage from lawmakers and police whose lives were put at risk. Trump is moving to dismantle diversity programs within the US government and is pressuring the private sector to do as well. That has left some in Davos searching for new words to describe workplace practices that they say are essential to their businesses. So clearly, he's making some big strides and honoring out of campaign promises, including freeing the founder of former online marketplace, that is Silk Road, that is Ross Ulbricht, who was jailed for the last 15 years. So that he was freed, and that was pretty good news, especially for the Liberty Party. So we'll be following closely on the speech later this afternoon to see the announcements he makes. And of course, that is expected to be very volatile for American as well as European markets. So as we continue with the presentation today, also notice that some major world leaders will not be attending the Davos World Economic Forum conference today, and they have not been attending for the prior number of days. So this includes the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. The Chinese President Xi Jinping will also not be attending. French President Emmanuel Macron is also missing. Italy's leader, Giorgia Meloni, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will also be missing. So the G7 industrialized nations, which includes US, Europe's biggest economies, Canada and Japan, the only head of state attending the summit in person is the outgoing German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz. So clearly, there's a lot of leaders that are not attending the Davos conference, but of course, Trump is the major news. So that's what we'll be following on closely. So as of this morning, if you look at the Asian market wrap up, you'll notice some of the major developments that happened in the Asian session. So stocks in Asia surged as Chinese officials reassured investors about the government's commitment to supporting the market and raising share values. China's benchmark CSI 300 index rose as much as 1.8%, reaching its highest level in over 3 weeks before reversing some of its gains. The Hang Seng China Enterprises Index, which monitors mainland stocks listed in Hong Kong, lost a 1.6% intraday gain as some investors saw Beijing's initiatives as a transitory boost. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index rose for the fourth straight day, setting up the biggest winning streak in nearly a month. So the advances in Chinese benchmarks followed a conference hosted by China's securities regulator, which advised local insurance and mutual funds to increase their equities holdings. So clearly, this was the major move. Basically, the Chinese security regulator asking the local insurance companies as well as mutual funds to buy more stocks. So the decision helped to lift the spirit of Chinese investors after Trump's tariff threat earlier this week dampened optimism about Chinese stocks. Asian markets were still absorbing the effects of Trump's first few days in office, which have delivered mixed signals to investors. So Trump has threatened tariffs against China, but has mainly avoided escalating the trade war. So outside of that, of course, we know that Trump basically launched a cryptocurrency coin a day to his inauguration day. So immediately he launched it, there was a very strong rally from a low of, I would say, $10. And within one day, the stock rose all the way to about a high of $75. However, since then, that coin has gradually been losing value. It's more synonymous to some form of the pump and dump, and now it's down to $37. So it's one of the the most trending cryptocurrencies in the world today. And of course, it's down. It's up 470% in the last 7 days. I don't know if it has gone for 7 days yet. This was launched on 18th, and today is 23rd. So we are talking about a 5-day performance where it's still 5x higher, but the overall performance over the last couple of days have just been bearish momentum as the pump and dump feature happens to be quite realistic for the new Trump coin. So on the other hand, if you look at the currencies and how they have performed since the year started, the UK pound is still hammered. It's still the weakest currency in the market, having traded down 1.72% against the dollar. Canadian dollar is still not doing well. It's down 0.10, pressured by weakening oil prices. Whereas Asian currencies have started regaining against the dollar, with the Australian dollar, which is usually positively correlated with gold, gaining 1.14% against the dollar. The New Zealand dollar up 1.05% against the USD, and the yen up 0.49% as we await the rate decision tomorrow, which will likely strengthen the JPY further. So today, we might be expecting to see a much stronger JPY as investors anticipate a stronger yen ahead of the Bank of Japan rate decision tomorrow. So the euro is making some impressive comeback, being up 0.39% against the dollar, and the Swiss franc is little change to the dollar at 0.05% since the year started. So as per the last 24 hours, the dollar is currently the strongest currency in the market, with the weakest currency being the New Zealand dollar, which is down 0.24%. So I'm still checking to see if there's any highlight that I may have missed. So on the tech side, we know that OpenAI's CEO basically announced a new project called Stargate, which is looking to raise $500 billion to advance AI and bring it to the world, or what is anticipated as the era of AGI. So When President Donald Trump joined tech executives on Tuesday to tout a multi-billion-dollar artificial intelligence project led in part by OpenAI, one question sprang to mind: where is Microsoft Corporation? So, despite investing almost $14 billion in OpenAI and using the startup's AI models for its next generation cloud services, Microsoft was mentioned only as a technology partner in a joint venture called Stargate, launched by OpenAI, SoftBank Group, and Oracle Corporation. Then, in a blog post, the software giant said OpenAI could use rival cloud services to train and run its AI models with Microsoft's permission, watering down an exclusivity contract. So, the flurry of announcements prompted renewed speculation that the Microsoft OpenAI relationship has frayed somewhat, although each party currently has one more to gain together than apart. But Microsoft has become less willing to spend even more money financing the computing power OpenAI says it needs to retain a lead in financial intelligence. However, in an interview last night, Microsoft CEO announced that the company is ready to spend $80 billion in this mega project. So, of course, there was a couple of arguments with Elon Musk challenging the project and saying they don't have the money. But now, after Microsoft saying that it's willing to spend $80 billion on this, there's more optimism that Stargate could become a reality. So, lastly, on oil markets, oil extends drop with focus on rising stockpiles as well as Trump actions. So oil edged lower after an industry report pointed to the first gain in US crude stockpiles since mid-November, as the market watched for further pledges on global trade from President Donald Trump. So Brent dropped below $79 a barrel, extending a run of losses that started last Thursday, while the West Texas Intermediate, or the WTI, was near 75. Inventories rose by $1 million barrels last week, and fuel stockpiles surged. The American Petroleum Institute reported, according to a document seen by Bloomberg. So, U.S. crude stockpiles are typically drawn down toward the end of the calendar year for tax reasons. Government figures are due later on Thursday, so that is later today. So, oil is still higher this year after a strong start. Following sinking temperatures in the northern hemisphere that increased heating demand and as US sanctions on Russia's oil industry upended markets. India has widened its backing for Russian insurers as it strives to keep the discounted barrels flowing. So the market continues to brace for actions from the new Trump administration after tariff threats on China, Canada, and Mexico, and warnings of more penalties on Moscow if President Putin doesn't engage on ending the nearly 3-year war in Ukraine. So the tariff threats so far are only threats. They are bargaining chips, said Vandana Hari, founder of Vanda Insights in Singapore. There may be cautious optimism that Trump will nail down a rapprochement with Putin, but the market will need more tangible assurance before pricing it in. So clearly, we expect Trump to be driving oil prices lower, as he has basically maintained that he wants to expand US oil production and, of course, address the current challenge of inflation within the US economy. So that being said, I believe now it's time we jump into some technical analysis and try to understand the top events or top chart patterns to be observing for the day, and hopefully try to identify some market opportunities. So before I do that, I'll be checking on the comment section. Good morning, Wangari Patrick, Noniza Jack, thank you for joining. Forex Sniper, thank you for joining. I'll be checking on the pound. Paul Carey, Humphrey Mushoga, thank you for joining. Can we expect Trump to dwell on monetary policy comments, or he's most likely going to talk about US foreign policy? Also, would the most volatility from this speech would be during or after he speaks? So on one side, we don't know exactly what he will be talking about, so that's still a wild card for us. So that's why it's important we follow the speech live as it happens this afternoon. So at the same time, if we are talking about market reaction, of course, we expect the market reaction to be while the speech is continuing, with further market action after the speech is presented. So morning, Joseph Gisharu. So another one from All Sports TV. Lately, Trump has been making pronouncements and comments that have been moving the market a lot. Where can one catch these comments in good time to be guided accordingly? I think he majorly posts on Truth Social, but also the comments about Trump are shared on X or Twitter immediately. So Truth Social seems to be his major announcement platform. So you might want to follow him there. And at the same time, try to check on the calendar whenever he has events, especially speeches and any other events he may be holding during his tenure. So hello, Kevin Othiambo. Hello, Boniface Watai. So always remember that we always appreciate when you like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you're watching this on X, if you like and retweet the live, you help us reach more traders and everyone gets the benefit, since this market is not trader versus trader, it's traders versus the market. So let's get started with the technical analysis part. So I'll be starting with the newest product on our platform, which is Trump USD, clearly after hitting a high of $48 yesterday. All we have been seeing is some bearish momentum, closing the market down yesterday at around $38.44, and today is trading at $36.84, which basically implies that the market is basically pulling back, and we are seeing the dump happen after the strong pump happened from last week. So in this case, the product is now available on MT5. You can check it out, and I think this is a more showing of a market that is dumping rather than a market that is pumping. So in this case, we should be expecting to see some further downside momentum from this Trump coin. If this interests you, you might want to check it out on FX Pesa MT5. So I know some of you may have questions. So all you have to do is to right click on your market watch section, select show all, and then you'll get the newest assets. Then from there, you can search for the Trump coin. So outside of that, let's get back to the major business. And here we'll be talking about the performance of various asset classes. Of course, Bitcoin managed to hit a good rally earlier in the week. So we saw Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high of 109,542, and then pulling back downwards, then pumping again. Yesterday was pretty bearish, and today seems like the market is pulling back yet again. And now we have what looks like some form of consolidation happening in Bitcoin, with this being the support area and the resistance being along this line here, clearly some form of consolidation that looks like a triangle. So it basically shows like the market is just moving up and down within these two trend lines. And now we are approaching a level that prices could bounce and then print another big rally upwards. So notice how the drops are slow for the last, I would say, 24 to 30 hours. And now we'll be expecting to see if there's a strong bounce from this area as Bitcoin remains with within this 3-day consolidation zone, where we can say the overall price action has been moving sideways, but then at some point we expect the bullish momentum to continue. So remember, we have been seeing pretty good momentum with Bitcoin, and we might be seeing a continuation further upwards. So US equities managed to form new highs, with the SP 500 going for a new all-time high. So remember, the all-time high was right here. So just want to highlight this. So yesterday we managed to hit a new all-time high before price pulled back downwards. So this pullback is healthy and it's nice. Remember, you don't ever want to buy at a new all-time high. You want prices to pull back so you can squeeze in a much better entry. So in this case, we expect some further upside momentum from the US 500, but the pullback is something that gives you some patience. So you wait for evidence that buyers are coming back. So it's the same stuff happening in the Russell 2000. If you look at the Dow Jones, it's the same stuff. And if you look at the Nasdaq, the pullback is much stronger. But then at some point, we should be expecting to see a nice pump higher. So as for Brent oil, all we have been seeing is prices pulling back downwards. So now I think it's safe to assume that the current rally in Brent oil is now behind us. And now it seems like sellers have entered strongly and there's more price pressure to move further back downwards. Of course, if you check the charts, you'd notice that we just bounced from a major resistance area and now the market is pulling back downwards. From the daily time frame, this is how it looks like. So clearly, we are looking at a market that is still forming significantly lower highs. And now, with the major support as per last year being around $68 per barrel, now we are seeing the market pulling back downwards. So this was also a major support area around $70 per barrel. And if you look at the daily time frame, you notice that we've had 5 consecutive bearish days for Brent oil prices. So today might as well be the 6th, but so far, according to the price action this morning, it seems there's some form of resilience in oil prices, but nevertheless, the trend line for the last couple of days seems to be following this path, and currently prices are retesting that area. So there is that likelihood that the market, after retesting this area, continues further back downwards as it has been doing in the last couple of days. So notice that every time the market has gotten to this level here, or this trend line, we've had a consequent drop. So this has been happening over and over again for the last couple of days, and now we are facing yet another test. So if the market fails to break above this area here, then there's a likelihood we see some further downward momentum in price. So as for gold, it continues with the exemplary performance this year. So I would say this is the 4th consecutive week that gold is pushing higher, with this week's performance being particularly interesting, given that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were pretty bullish, and today being Thursday, we are basically looking at some form of a slowdown in price action. So I would say since yesterday's high on the 15-minute chart, it seems like gold is entering some form of consolidation. So we will be observing this closely with more interest in seeing evidence of buyers coming back in. So if you happen to see buyers coming back in, this might be the signal to go for a bullish position after experiencing this pullback from yesterday's high. So the Nikkei 225 index, as we have been analyzing for some good time now, has been on a multiple week range. I would say 10 to 20 weeks range, moving sideways. And with this sideways momentum, we have always tried to capture the extreme prices. So we tried to analyze the bottom here, which was quite similar with the previous bottom here. So the market tested it thrice, and then bounced quite strongly. And this was as per last week. And then this week, we have seen a very strong acceleration higher. But now the market is meeting some form of resistance on the upper side. And now we are looking for signs that sellers are coming back in. So if this plays out as expected, then we should be looking for short selling position as the market looks to change direction and remain within the multiple week range. So USDN, on the other hand, managed to break out of this channel, get to this bottom here, and then retested it before bouncing again. So we are seeing the dollar being quite strong against the yen, but this couldn't be far from the truth. Of course, we know that the Bank of Japan rate decision is coming. So clearly, we know that we have some form of support at 154.975. And if it so happens that the market finds this as the major resistance area, then as per the announcement tomorrow on the rate hike by the Bank of Japan, then this might be a very interesting idea, going for a short selling position where the yen is expected to strengthen against the dollar, in this case targeting all the way down. So for AUD-USD, which is a currency that has been really gaining against the dollar, we saw it hit a major resistance area. Notice the previous high was here, and the other high was just slightly lower. And now notice how the market entered that zone, entered again, and in each of the cases, it was unable to break. So in this case, we are now experiencing market pulling back downwards. Of course, we should be expecting some further momentum to retest these levels around 0.62430. So potentially the market drop into this area. So in this case, backed by a strong dollar in the market, and as we have seen in the dollar index, we are seeing a very strong recovery since yesterday's midday. So far today, we are also seeing some further upside potential for the dollar index. And with this playing out, then we are seeing other currencies are responding. So of course, the dollar is bouncing pretty strongly against the Swiss franc. It's also regaining some ground against the New Zealand dollar. So if we clean the charts here, go to the 4-hour chart, then we know that this was a major resistance area that the New Zealand dollar was unable to break. So upon getting to that area, notice how prices rejected this area here. Then a second time, and now we are seeing more acceleration downwards. So perhaps we should even be looking at the weekly low around these areas here with possible extension of the bearish momentum all the way down to 0.56216. So for AUD-USD, we have seen that, and for Pound-USD, clearly we expected a breakout here, didn't play out. So for the better part of the week, I would say that we were in this market pattern that closely resembled some form of flag with a more or less, I would call it a bullish channel. And now we are on a different swing where the market is now headed back downwards with projections that could lead to further downside momentum. And of course, the target would be around 1.22157. So as for Euro-USD, we saw a pretty good rally happening on Euro-USD, but then the rally seems to be losing some form of steam, having hit this previous resistance. So notice the coincidence between these areas that were acting as support now turned into a resistance, and upon the market getting to that area, we are now seeing price pressure back to the lower side. Of course, from the 1-hour chart, it seems more likely that we could be seeing the market going for the weekly low, and that's somewhere around this price action area of around 1.03526. So that being said, I believe we have covered pretty much everything. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining the session. Of course, USD CAD is also in a range, sideways momentum. It has really struggled to break outside of this range. And of course, the current cycle is just a bounce from the lower trend line, which is now poised to move even higher, perhaps targeting the previous high, which is around 1.44691. So as for European equities, most of them are trading very close or at all-time highs. So if you look at the Spanish IBEX, very close to its all-time high, meaning that we have seen some very strong performance from European equities, and this could continue today. And of course, from what we are seeing in the markets since the open, is more bullish momentum. For the Euro 50 cash index, also hitting a new all-time high today, yesterday. And of course, today we are seeing this pullback playing out, but at some point, we expect to see a bounce in the market headed for even higher high. So the French stock market index hasn't hit a new all-time high yet, but the most recognizable development is that it managed to break previous resistance area, and this is the resistance that we last saw on the 27th of September last year. And now having broken above this particular resistance, then we should be expecting to see some more upside. So notice after breaking, there was some form of pullback, then there's still more room for upside potential. So for Chinese equities, the Hang Seng Index seems to have erased some of the gains it had made earlier in the day. Notice from the 1-hour chart, we are seeing this kind of pullback that resembles some form of flag. So if you really look at this chart here, you'll notice that this market has overall been pulling back for a while, and that's within the last 2 days, but the overall structure points to a more bullish case. So we should be expecting to see some further upside after the pullback. The China A50 index, after breaking this resistance and moving higher, has reasonably pulled back downwards. Of course, from this morning's announcement, there was a strong rally, but it eventually erased some of those gains. So we'll be observing the stock market index closely for the day. And of course, lastly, the German stock market index seems to be the most bullish, having printed new all-time highs. With day after day gains, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is almost the 8th day where we are seeing positive momentum. Notice that I counted the doji here, which is more of a sideways momentum candle. So clearly a very strong bullish market. And of course, if you go to the 50 minutes chart, it's more like we are completing some form of cup and a handle, where the market basically completes a cup, then goes for a handle as a continuation pattern. So we should be observing the German stock market index as a key index of interest that could bring some good opportunities for the day. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'll be checking on the comment section to see if there's anything I missed. If there's nothing, then we can easily conclude the session. So hello, Kevin Othiambo, Dennis Mwangi, Oskaireri. Any intervention on Japan versus US economy? I haven't seen Trump threatening anything with Japan. So most likely we'll be just following the Japanese monetary policy. And if the Bank of Japan is looking to strengthen the yen, then we will not be fighting it. We'll be working with it to identify trading opportunities. So we already covered on gold. So I hope that is sufficiently covered. So thank you, Philip Theuri. And Philip Theuri says hello to the team. So as we approach the end of the presentation, remember we have a new episode of the Bullish Banter podcast. Pretty interesting discussions going on. So make sure to check it out on the FX Pesa YouTube as well as other podcast platforms. In this case, we had a very interesting guest who really wanted to learn about Forex. So he traveled from Dar es Salaam all the way to South Africa to learn Forex. And some of the lessons he learned are shared on the podcast. So make sure to check it out. So we also have a new episode on the Financially Incorrect podcast coming up. And also make sure to check it out on Financially Incorrect YouTube as well as on the socials. And lastly, as we approach the end, remember that FX Pesa is offering a broad number of asset classes that you can trade from your phone, that you can trade from your laptop, tablet, desktop PC, and so on. And you can do this through the MetaTrader 4, MetaTrader 5 applications, as well as the Equity Trader available on your App Store. So to register for an account, check the links in the description below. And if you're watching this on X, then visit the FX Pesa handle where you'll find a link to register. And if you're just a beginner and you want to learn how to trade Forex, check out the Novice to Pro series. It's available on the FX Pesa YouTube channel, free of charge for you to learn. And of course, in addition to that, we have Zoom events, basically continuing live, where we do offer mentorship to help you grow and improve your trading skills. And of course, this Friday, we will be meeting with traders in Eldoret. That will be at Rupas Mall. So make sure to book your seat on the FX Pesa socials. So thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you on the next one.